Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Well, again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for Thursday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Dave Percy. On the satellite imagery today, we've got a band of clouds, an upper level low, sliding southward here across the western interior. So clouds, areas of rain up here to the northwest, on out toward the eastern Arctic coast, and then showers across the Kuskokwim Valley on down toward Bethel and Nunivak Island, and a few showers for the Seward Peninsula, isolated showers extending out to the Pribilofs and also for the eastern Aleutians and the Adak and Atka area. Low pressure here just south of Kodiak Island is pushing moisture up toward the southeast coast. Front moving through earlier last night and early today, resulting in breaking the weather for the most of the day today. Showers lingering up north, more extensive showers coming back northwestward along the North Gulf Coast in toward Prince William Sound area, where Seward picked up about half an inch of rain during the day today since midnight last night, and also Portage picked up about the same amount. Otherwise, showers around Kodiak and pretty gusty winds up there across the Arctic coast with gales out for the central and eastern coast. Those are out for the central coast through this afternoon and through this evening on the east side. Otherwise, northerly flow here diminishes after gusting up to 35 miles an hour at Wales, falls back to about 15 to 25 down toward the Pribilofs there, and showers will be moving out of the area this evening. And then on the chart today, we've got the low here southwest of Kodiak Island, and a series of troughs advancing northeastward here in southwest flow across the Gulf of Alaska right into the Panhandle. Front moving through earlier today, band of showers moving eastward, lingering in the north, rain and showers north Gulf Coast, back to the Seward Peninsula, especially Seward picking up about half an inch of rain today also, with lighter amounts here back to the west, but kind of extensive areas of light rain through the southern slopes of the Western Brooks Range, down across the Nulato Hills, and then showers of the peninsula. Gusty winds, high as 46 miles an hour, were recorded at Barrow this afternoon, and up to 35, as I mentioned, through the Bering Strait. Otherwise, winds become lighter, high pressure holding out over the far western Aleutians and also the central Bering Sea areas. So that allowing this system here, that next band of clouds up there to the north, to drop southward tonight and will lie from about Nunivak Island there into the Pribilofs. So another batch of showers coming in after midnight tonight for the Pribilofs. Low pressure over the western interior, both at the surface and aloft. We'll keep it cloudy and showery all the way from the north slope down in toward Bristol Bay. Not much change for the Alaska Peninsula for tonight, with showers lingering here, mostly on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula, with showers also Kodiak Island northward here along the Kenai Peninsula. Should be a little bit lighter than what you saw today falling, but still pretty showery with periods of rain picking up from about Cordova. This next trough coming in, so actually strengthening here, so that'll kick the winds up, begin to increase the winds a little bit tonight along the Panhandle there, especially on the north coast. Could see small craft advisories there, and possibly the eastern North Gulf Coast, with rain developing Port Alexander northward, possibly into Juneau. Showers for Haines to Skagway, and rain on the increase for the North Gulf Coast. Staying dry down here to the south. That'll take a little longer to move into the southern Panhandle. Otherwise, temperatures will be cool enough up there along the Arctic coast for precipitation to fall in the form of a mixed precipitation pattern there, rain or snow, mainly on the eastern and central Arctic coastal areas. Otherwise, rain down to the south, dry over the Tanana Valley and 40 Mile Country. Forecast for tomorrow, that same area will probably pick up some partly sunny conditions. That could extend southward into the Kuskokwim Valley and then back in towards southern Cook Inlet. And then that trough here develops into a front now. And so southeast winds out along the coast, not all that strong, especially in the inside waters, but rain chances increase during the day from Dixon Entrance northward all the way up to Skagway. Periods of rain for Yakutat into Cordova, some more of a general rain coming back into the eastern North Gulf Coast with moisture spreading westward. So rain will probably move into western Prince William Sound again after morning showers tomorrow, and then rain chances increase here for northern Cook Inlet. And it stays dry up in the interior. The trough out here to the west will keep showers going from Bristol Bay all the way up to the Seward Peninsula, and then possible clearing, a little bit of offshore flow there for the northwest coast. And dry from the central coast out to Point Leyte, maybe some clearing there, but rain and snow. Temperatures stay in the 30s for the eastern coast with winds coming down. Not even small craft advisories possible early in the day here for the eastern coast, but much lighter winds from Barrow back down into the Chukchi Sea. And just a breeze now, northerlies about 10 to 20 along the southwest coast, 15 to 20 or so for the Alaska Peninsula, and low clouds, fog, drizzle, low flying conditions still possible here for Adak and Atka on into the eastern Aleutians. Otherwise, high pressure holding out over the western Bering Sea with the center just southwest of Shimya. So that's allowing this weak warm front to try and come over the top, but it weakens, and Saturday just weakens into a few leftover showers there along the Russian coast. Otherwise, the upper trough here keeps it showery and cool from the Seward Peninsula southwestward across the Yukon Delta to Nunivak Island, with showers for the Pribilofs moving through. Otherwise, a break here for the eastern Aleutians, just mostly cloudy skies, isolated showers to the Alaska Peninsula, isolated showers early in the day for Kodiak, and then partly sunny in the afternoon on up toward Iliamna. And the interior looking mostly cloudy, a few breaks here up over the north central interior areas or Tanana Valley back in toward the Kobuk Valley with showers, mostly cloudy skies from the Alaska Range across the Copper River Basin down to the North Gulf Coast, back to showers there with another trough swinging into the Panhandle, so back into a rain there for the first day of the weekend, again from Dixon Entrance, and by afternoon getting over to the border and northward all the way to Lynn Canal and Glacier Bay with another trough back out here forming, and those tend to generate, and so this one will form and bring rain in again later Saturday evening, overnight Saturday night. Probably another one will form after that and keep the same pattern going through Sunday. And for temperatures, for the lows tonight, mid-30s here, Copper River Basin on up into the eastern interior through the 40 Mile Country to about Eagle, and mid-30s for the north slope on out to the Arctic coast, a little milder in the west, mid-40s here for the southwest, Bristol Bay and the Alaska Peninsula, with lower 50s for the Panhandle and the Aleutians in the upper 40s. And for the highs tomorrow, looks like lower 60s with, again, partly sunny skies here for the Tanana Valley. And that'll probably be the case into the Kuskokwim Valley as well, down into northeast Bristol Bay. Mostly in the upper 50s. Some areas will push towards 60 degrees, and mid-50s again for the Alaska Peninsula, as well as the Aleutians, with not much change over the central Bering Sea. Highs right around 50 from the Pribilofs on up to Savunga. And the southern Panhandle could see upper 50s to near 60, and mostly in the 50s on up to the north and the North Gulf Coast. And looking at the lows for tomorrow night, mildest here over the southern Panhandle again, with upper 40s on up toward Lynn Canal and Glacier Bay area, mid-40s for the North Gulf Coast. And then we've got upper 40s here west of the Alaska Range in the Kuskokwim Valley, all the way down into northeast Bristol Bay, and then that extends down the peninsula, falling into the mid-40s there around Falls Pass, in towards the Unalaska area, but generally staying in the upper 40s there. It's not much of a diurnal temperature change going on in that area. Otherwise, for the Pribilofs, mostly in the mid-40s on up to St. Lawrence Island, so both Savunga and Gamble will be in the mid-40s, as well as much of the Seward Peninsula area. And lows, though, for the North Slope could drop into the upper 20s or so here, mostly on the central and east side, with the coastal area staying a little bit milder, and lower 40s here for the central Tanana Valley. And then rolling into the forecast highs for Sunday, again about the same temperature-wise, no change in the pattern here. Again, series of troughs, lots of moisture, cloud showers rolling into the southeast coast. So you're going to be looking at upper 50s, maybe near 60 around Port Alexander, maybe Klawock. Otherwise, upper 50s, a little bit cooler up there to the north. Upper 50s for the North Gulf Coast, with showers tapering off in toward the Susitna Valley. They'll stay pretty wet, so 50s for the Kenai Peninsula area. And looks like upper 50s here over the eastern interior, near 60 maybe around the Fairbanks area, mid 50s toward Tanana, lower 50s down along the southwest coast, with 40 to 45 there across the Brooks Range, and upper 30s to near 40 for the North Slope, while the eastern coastal areas around Kaktovik, lower 40s, a little bit cooler there for the central and western coast, but then kind of a northeast flow there pushes up to the upper 40s or maybe even near 50 there for Kotzebue and the Kobuk Valley areas, near 50 St. Lawrence Island, and lower 50s for the Yukon Delta to mid to upper 50s again for Bristol Bay, with Kodiak Island rising into the mid to upper 50s. Probably see some increasing sunshine during the afternoon, so that'll help push the temperature up in the afternoon after a few morning showers.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Flying weather for tomorrow morning, showing IFR here, eastern Norton Sound down in to the Yukon Delta and up toward the Selawik Valley. More IFR, North Slope, Arctic Coast, down to the Brooks Range. Marginal VFR, Bering Strait, all the way out across the Bering Sea. All of the Aleutians up into Bristol Bay toward Kodiak Island. Then we've got IFR east side of Kodiak Island, eastern Gulf of Alaska, right up into western Prince William Sound, eastward along the southeast coast. And for tomorrow afternoon, that disappears over here. It becomes marginal in the afternoon from eastern Kodiak Island, southern Kenai Peninsula, Prince William Sound, IFR now from about Cordova, eastward to Elfin Cove, down to Port Alexander, and then some over toward the border, with marginal VFR remaining over the remainder of the Panhandle. Good VFR here over eastern interior to the Copper River Basin, Cook Inlet VFR down into northeast Bristol Bay, and marginal VFR here southwest interior northward. IFR on the North Slope, eastern Arctic coast, and not too bad, just marginal VFR for most of the Bering Sea and Aleutians, except around Unalaska and Atka. Could see some IFR. And then for Saturday morning, IFR St. Lawrence Island, and here in the central Brooks Range of the eastern Arctic coast. Good VFR over the interior, southwest coast, Bering Sea Aleutians, marginal, Gulf of Alaska marginal, IFR now a little more widespread over the southern Panhandle. And then for Saturday afternoon, IFR southwest interior to Nunivak Island, and persisting here over the eastern part of the Panhandle with marginal VFR up across Yakutat to just east of Cordova. VFR continues eastern interior, marginal eastern Brooks Range. Passes Anatuvik tomorrow morning, IFR becoming marginal, improving for Adigan as well. Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR becoming VFR, rainy marginal becoming VFR, windy VFR, Isabel VFR, Mentasta VFR, as well as Tanita. And for Portage, IFR becoming marginal, and for Chilkoot and White, IFR throughout the entire day. Freezing levels, 4,000 feet here up over the northwest, and then kind of a 4,000 to 6,000 foot level here down across Bristol Bay and the Alaska Peninsula, 6,000 feet Kodiak Island, eastern interior there on the 40-mile country, and about that until you get down to the southern Panhandle, and it picks up to about 8,000 feet. Out west, warmer conditions there, 8,000 feet here for the eastern Aleutians, up to just west of the Pribilofs, and then about 10,000 feet farther out west. And from there, looking at the icing forecast, not expected here for the Bering Sea, Aleutians, or Alaska Peninsula, western interior. Could be some light to very isolated moderate rime icing there for the Brooks Range, North Slope, and Arctic coastal areas above about 4,000 feet. and here above about 7,000 feet, a little more moisture there and moving into the panhandle, so could be some areas of ice or widespread moderate rime icing there along the coast and northward here, Lynn Canal back toward Yakutat, with just isolated moderate down toward Dixon Entrance. And also icing chances exist along the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, to about the Chugach Mountains there and the southern part of the Kenai Peninsula. Looking at the tomorrow's jet stream, upper level low here slowly pushing eastward across the southern Gulf of Alaska, keep southwest flow in toward the southern panhandle here. So the jet stream getting a little farther to the south there, so it'll dry out a little bit over the northern areas. Back to the west, high pressure, western Bering Sea into the Russian Far East. Northerly jet 70 to 90 knots sailing southward there through the central Bering Sea, in across the eastern Aleutians, and then the main Pacific jet here staying south of the area until it gets back up into the panhandle. And for 9,000 feet, couple of lows up in the north area there. North of those, 10 to 20 knots out of the east-northeast along and off the Arctic coast. Otherwise, the interior, really light winds, light and variable, just 5 knots. Picking up here along the North Gulf Coast to about 20 to 30 knots, up to 35 knots on the southern panhandle. High pressure out west, northwesterlies 15 to 20 knots. Same thing there at 3,000 feet, 20 to 25 knots north-northwest for the Aleutians. Lighter in the Bering. Light winds over the interior, and southeasterlies here, a narrow band of them along the southeast coast, up to the North Gulf Coast, 20 to 35 knots. Turbulence, light to isolated moderate for the southeast panhandle.
Along the Milky Way. Hey there, stargazers. I'm James Albury, director of the Kika Silva Pla Planetarium in Gainesville, Florida.
And I'm Dehne Regas, astronomer for the Cincinnati Observatory. This week, we'll be your guides to the galaxy.
Yep, we're going to show you the Milky Way, something that I hardly ever get to see in Florida. How many times have you seen the Milky Way, Dehne?
The only Milky Way I see in Cincinnati is filled with chocolate and nougat. For me, light pollution is a big problem. City lights illuminate signs, parking lots, buildings.
And also the night sky. The more light that we shine up, the less starlight we can see shining down.
Even though it's invisible from cities, James and I can share a sneaky tip to find the Milky Way in your sky. Let's show you.
Okay, let's pretend it's 9:30 at night and we're far from city lights.
Wow, it is dark out here.
I know, and look at all the stars you can see.
So many stars. I mean, you can't even count them all.
We're facing southeast, and you can also see a band of faint light stretching from the horizon to way high up above, almost going straight overhead. This is the Milky Way. When you look at the Milky Way, you're observing billions and billions of stars. Most of the stars in our galaxy are stretched out in a band all around us.
There are so many stars in our line of sight that they appear as milky clouds. Most ancient cultures were just as fascinated with the Milky Way as they were with any planet or constellation. You can definitely see why, because out in the country, it dominates the sky. Some bright and famous constellations can be found along this galactic river, such as Cassiopeia the Queen, Cygnus the Swan, and Sagittarius the Archer.
Cassiopeia is one of the most recognizable constellations. In the summer evenings, she sits on her throne in the northeastern sky.
What, you mean those stars that look like the letter W, that's a queen?
Use your imagination, Dehne.
Well, that picture certainly helps, but I guess I'm imagination challenged.
In that case, picture this W shape of stars as Cassiopeia's crown sparkling with 5 stellar jewels.
Okay, now that I can see. Now, kick back and look high in the sky. Almost straight overhead, you'll see 3 very bright stars marking the Summer Triangle. The Summer Triangle is not an official constellation. It's really 3 constellations: Lyra the Harp, Cygnus the Swan, and Aquila the Eagle.
Let's focus on Cygnus since it's probably the easiest to identify because of its cross-like shape. In fact, it's also called the Northern Cross.
Cygnus's brightest star is Dehne, which marks the tail of the swan. Cygnus is located in an extremely rich part of the Milky Way, so imagine it flying along the great river in the sky.
Near Dehne, the Milky Way branches into 2 channels, leaving a dark region in the middle. This is called the Cygnus Rift. Now look toward the south. Here the Milky Way threads between two zodiacal constellations, Scorpius and Sagittarius. Scorpius' scorpion is easy to spot with its bright red star for a heart and its curved tail stars. The stars in Sagittarius resemble more of a teapot than a centaur wielding a bow and arrow.
When you look towards Sagittarius, you're peering into the center of our galaxy. In that direction, there are billions and billions of stars. And at the very center lies a supermassive black hole. Of course, you can't see the Milky Way if you're a city-bound stargazer. Let's show you the difference between a rural sky and a light-polluted sky.
Yikes, what a difference. Even though the Milky Way has disappeared, we still have three constellations clearly visible to guide us. Cassiopeia in the northeast, Cygnus high overhead, and Sagittarius low in the south.
And that's where the Milky Way is, even if you can't see it. Once you identify Cassiopeia, Cygnus, or Sagittarius, scan these regions of the sky with binoculars. With just a little magnification, a wealth of stars will be revealed to you.
So, follow the Milky Way tonight
And start counting those billions and billions of stars as you keep looking up.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Coastal marine forecasts starting out for Friday here. That front moving in from the west, small craft advisories from the south, all along the coast, extreme north coast there. Southeast 25, seas all running 8 to 9 feet. Small craft advisories also for Clarence Strait, 25 knots. Otherwise south to southeast 20 on up to the north through Lynn Canal. And then for Saturday, we've got southeast winds 15 knots for both Stevens Passage and Clarence Strait, the south 15 for northern Lynn Canal. Southerlies at 15 knots for the central coast, southwest 20 on the south coast with the seas running roughly about 7 to 8 feet. And for Prince William Sound for tomorrow, northeast at about 20 knots, but small craft advisories, again, the front coming northward here will increase those winds again. So east 25 for the eastern North Gulf Coast, those turn northeast, and then northerlies for the Barrens to 20 knots. Northerly winds 20 knots also from Kachemak Bay here northward into northern Cook Inlet with these seas running at about 5 feet. And the outlook for Saturday, light westerly winds here for Cook Inlet with seas coming down to 2 feet, just 15 knot winds for Kachemak Bay. For the Barren Islands, north 15, seas 6 feet, and then northeast winds at 15 there for the North Gulf Coast, and light winds out of the north for Prince William Sound. For Bristol Bay tomorrow, northwest 15 knots, the Alaska Peninsula, northwest 15 to 20 knots, strongest on the Pacific side of the peninsula. And that'll extend up to Sitkinak as well with 7-foot seas. Kodiak Island here in the eastern zones, north 20, Shelikof Strait north of 20, with seas 3 feet, but up to 7 feet there in that eastern zone. And for Saturday, we've got northwest winds 20 knots here, east of Kodiak Island, light northwesterlies Shelikof Strait, and northwest 20 from Bristol Bay down across that zone from Castle Cape to Sitkinak, and from Castle Cape to Cape Sarachev, northwest 25, small craft advisories there. Bering Sea side of the peninsula, west at 20. And for the Aleutians, northwest 20 knots with 6 to 8 foot seas here from Adak and Atka eastward across the Fox Islands, turning westerly out towards Shimia. And then for Saturday, west winds 15 knots, so coming down most areas here and turning northwest again around Atka, 15 knots, seas coming down to 5 feet, and then winds increasing here, especially for Unalaska Island with small craft advisories there in the southern zone. And up to the southwest coast, small craft advisories tomorrow along the coast all the way up to St. Lawrence Island, 25 knots northerly up through that area, 6 to 7 foot seas, and 5 feet for here for Nunivak Island, northern Bering Sea, St. Matthew Island, northwest 15, and northwest 20 for the Pribilofs. For Saturday, west 20 here, north of Nunivak Island, St. Lawrence Island, northwest 20, Kuskokwim Bay to the Pribilofs, and northwest also 20 there for the northern Bering Sea area, with the seas all running at about 5 feet. And for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, east-northeast, 20 to 25 knots. So small craft advisories with 8-foot seas cover all of the Arctic coast. And then back down to 20 knots here for the Northwest Capes, and then from Cape Thompson to Wales, north 25 with 5-foot seas. Outlook for Saturday, lighter winds now from Wales up to Cape Beaufort, from the north 15, turning easterly here from Cape Thompson. And then we've got small craft advisories again for the western coast with 6-foot seas, falling back to 15 knots out of the east, and then picking up a little bit to 20 knots from the northeast over toward Demarcation Point. And for tonight again, this trough coming in, beginning to strengthen a little bit, and that's going to increase those winds along the coast late tonight and also spread the rain back in over the area, taking a little longer to get into the southern areas. More rain along the North Gulf Coast, pretty dry over the interior. Rain continues, mixed with snow along the eastern Arctic coast. Batch of showers sliding southeastward here. Kind of dissipates as it crosses the Alaska Peninsula. Small craft advisories, rain, the Panhandle, along the North Gulf Coast. Showers into Cook Inlet in the afternoon, dry over the eastern interior. Showers on out to the west with scattered showers extending up, and then becomes mixed rain and snow again along the eastern Arctic coast. Isolated showers for the Alaska Peninsula and the Aleutian areas. First day of the weekend, drying out up here to the northwest. Another trough brings more showers and rain into the Yukon Delta. Mostly cloudy, showery over the interior.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.